back here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'm going to be spending an absurd amount of time with him over the next several weeks and months, as it is now fully on and cracking in the talent evaluation portion of our calendar. All 32 teams now on the clock. My buddy at Move the Sticks himself, Daniel Jeremiah, back here on the program. How you doing, DJ?
I'm doing great, buddy. I've got to hit you up with a question though as we get started here.
Yes, sir.
How was the halftime show? How was the halftime show yesterday?
In person, you mean?
Well, just seeing it. I had the great privilege of being on the NFL Network halftime show where we don't have rights to video, where we're on for 30 straight minutes just discussing what happened in the first half. So I was curious, what did you see? How was it?
Were you on roller skates too?
I was not. I was not on roller skates. It was very much like Hoosiers practice, where no scrimmaging, no shooting, a lot of drill work there at halftime.
Well, it was good, to be honest with you. It looked great to me in person.
Okay.
Did you also put the set together within 8 minutes and then take it apart for the second half? Did you do that too on the NFL Network?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. It was quite the strike. It was more than just me to come in there and get that accomplished.
Oh, my gosh. Have you watched the footage, the film back at all? Any film from last night? Have you tape grinding?
Rich, this is officially draft season, buddy.
Got it.
Why the game was going on last night? The game was on in the background. I was in the screening room at NFL Network, and I was watching Ray Davis, the running back from Kentucky. So it's that time of year.
Okay, nice. Jump into it. Then what's your impression of Super Bowl 58? What's your takeaway from it?
Yeah, I have a couple things. I mean, I think that the Mahomes Brady thing, I watched a lot of the pregame show. You guys were talking about that. I know that's going to be something that's going to be a storyline for the rest of Mahomes' career as he tries to hunt down Tom. But I was thinking beyond just Mahomes and Brady, I was thinking this is eerie how similar this is to the Patriots, where Hall of Fame head coach, Hall of Fame quarterback, Hall of Fame tight end, likely Hall of Fame kickers. It is all right there. You think of the continuity that they had for Tom Brady. Look at the continuity that they have for Mahomes. I tweeted this out a minute ago. Like, the crazy thing is, and we'll get into the game, but like, to win a Super Bowl with no attrition, you keep your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator. In fact, you might be bringing back Eric Bieniemy, which reminded me of the Patriots. Look, they send out their assistant coaches. It doesn't work. Come on back in, come right back into the fold, and we just keep this thing rolling. I think there's a lot more similarities than just those two quarterbacks when you're talking about the Chiefs and the Patriots.
So then which draft choice by the Chiefs over the last, say, 3 drafts do you think is the one that was Brett Veach's sort of masterpiece and what you've been seeing from these kids over the last few years on this run?
If you ask me the best players, and Snead is a great player, and he's going to get paid a ton of money, but their defense, the 2 best players when you watch them, and I've seen a ton of them over the years, is you start with Chris Jones, which predates that, and then McDuffie would be number 2. You had 2 3rd and 4s in that game that really decided the game. On those 2 3rd and 4s, McDuffie blitzes, bats a ball down. On the next 3rd and 4, Chris Jones gets an unblocked pressure, which it looked like a bust in their pass pro. But those 2 stars made the 2 big plays on the big down. And then I flip it over to the other side. The play of the game to me was the 4th and 1. And I mean, I was shocked that Bosa crashed on Pacheco, because I'm sitting there watching it going, do you think Andy Reid wants to stand up at the press conference after the game and say, we went out on a handoff to Isaiah Pacheco and we did not have the ball in Pat Mahomes' hand? And then sure enough, though, Bosa crashes on Pacheco and then off goes Mahomes. I was talking to a defensive coach in the league. We were texting back and forth this morning. And actually, I don't want to do disservice to it, so I'll see exactly what it
Take your time. Open your phone up. Get to it.
Which was when we get in those situations, when you're playing against guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen, we have a saying: "Game on the line." They're keeping that blank. Right. So that was shocking to me that they weren't prepared for Mahomes to pull that ball, and that was kind of the beginning of the end.
Yeah, it just seemed to me that the Niners, after playing so buttoned up for 3 quarters or whatever, started having breakdowns of covering. Like Kelsey, I guess you can't keep him down forever. He wound up having 9 catches for 90 yards and change. Rashee Rice caught one over the middle on that final drive in regulation, or I think it was the final drive maybe in the game, where he caught it and it looked like he could go, from over the middle. And then you talk about those the McDuffie play. How could you? Is that something that Purdy should have seen and gotten out of? Was that based on the formation? Like, because that was huge. If they had picked that one up, they could have taken the game down to maybe 1 minute or less than a minute to go and had the lead and forced Mahomes and Reed to really pull one out. DJ.
Yeah, I mean they had 2 instances on those 2 big plays. The one with McDuffie, he's trying to throw into the blitz, which is just going to be tough, and that's especially not a huge quarterback that usually you try and retreat and get some distance so you can get that ball over the top. He didn't do that, and so that was the flaw with that one. And the other one, from a pass protection standpoint, usually as a quarterback, you want to stay big on big. Hey, we'll take the bigs inside. If we get a free runner off the edge, then I can climb up. I can buy some time away from him, and they would have had a touchdown on the right side of the field there. So they didn't. They turned the big loose, and there's nothing you can do. Purdy, I mean, in that case, when you get Chris Jones bearing down on you inside there, you just don't have time. So that's kind of what went wrong on that one. But I thought against the Kansas City Chiefs, you're going to have to play man on key downs, and that's not really what the 49ers are. They're not a great man team, and I thought that was one of the big differences in this game was the corners for the Chiefs on those gotta have it downs stayed plastered and just smothered the Niners, and then the Niners on some of those key downs in the back end, they just weren't quite good enough. So incredibly evenly matched, obviously with the game that we got, but in the preview of the game, I was saying, look, if you're telling me these teams are evenly matched, which they are, quarterback and head coach, how do you go against the Kansas City Chiefs?
I didn't, and that's part of the reason why is just Mahomes, really, over all else. I've got Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show. Any 2 cents from you or the scouting or coaching community on your chatter lines there about the decision to keep the ball to start overtime in the new overtime rules last night?
I had some people that reached out and said, why would you do that? What do you want to know what you're chasing? So you have the opportunity to use 4th down in real time. My honest reaction was the same as Shanahan's, which was, well, I want an opportunity to be able to win this thing with the first kick, so, if we each score and then I can get the next points, it's over. So that was my initial thought. I hadn't spent a ton of time thinking that through. As in hindsight, you're like, okay, if it was a college overtime, you always let the other team go first because you want to know what you're chasing. And I guess maybe that should have been the same thought here.
Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's turn the page here because now you're doing your draft prep, and we're going to be ready to hit all 32 teams in the draft. And obviously what the Bears are going to do with the first overall pick now becomes the front burner, hot burner conversation. And interestingly enough, a name from the past, Merrill Hodge, longtime ESPN analyst who was spot on a lot of his evaluations in his time being part of their draft coverage and pre-draft coverage about certain quarterbacks. He had this to say about Caleb Williams. Hit it, please.
Oh, I've only watched Caleb Williams 3 games last year, 3 this year, so I'm only halfway done, okay? The one thing that is clear, he is not special. He is not something unique like a Patrick Mahomes, and I hope the Bears don't think, well, let's try to make up for our mistake when we pass up Patrick Mahomes and go get the Patrick Mahomes. The kid is not Patrick Mahomes. Ain't even remotely close to that. So it is unfair to Justin Fields. He has had new coordinator. There's no possible way you can know about your guy when you do that. It's the worst thing that can happen to any player, especially a quarterback. Now, when Justin came out, the one thing that I thought he had just an inexperience. He just needed more experience. He lacked that. But what I have seen in Justin Fields, from my evaluation, there's enough growth and hope there that I would not let him go because I see enough there.
So as soon as I saw that, I hit the link, copy link button, and texted it to you saying, "Have you seen this?" So now that I've put it out there for you to chew on with my audience having seen it, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I'll start with the respect that I have for Merrill Hodge, and I've met him many, many years ago when I was young, going through ESPN, and he works hard, and he nailed it with the success he's had on some quarterbacks, most famously Johnny Manziel. He was the one who never bought in on that, and turned out that he was absolutely 100% right. I don't agree with him on this one. I just don't. And the pushback I would have is, man, if 39 games is not enough to evaluate Justin Fields, but 3 games this year are enough to evaluate and make solid statements on Caleb Williams, that doesn't make sense to me. So I've seen a lot of Caleb Williams. I've seen everything he did last year. I've seen everything that he did this year. He is, to me, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, in terms of ability, is the closest thing to Patrick Mahomes we've seen. He's got unbelievable arm talent. I mean, I'm talking arm strength from different angles, from different platforms, the creativity. When Mahomes was coming out of college, it was screens and scrambles. That's what he majored in. It was helter-skelter. He had a lot of work that he had to do footwork-wise, and that's one of the reasons why they redshirted him a year there behind Alex Smith. And they drilled that into him, and they were able to take all the talent that he had, which was still raw, and were able to corral it and develop it, and then what you see is what you get. I don't think the Mahomes that we see now is the exact same Mahomes we saw when he was coming out of college, which is to say he got better and he developed, and that's where he is now. There's no perfect prospect, Rich. Where you go matters. It's going to matter a lot for Caleb Williams, but I believe, in my opinion, this is one of the more physically gifted and talented players at the position we've seen in a while, and some assembly is required, and he's going to need to go to the right place and get developed. But no, I wouldn't make that declarative statement that he's that he's not going to be very good.
Fair or not, though, Mahomes is going to loom over this whole proceeding. In the same way that Brady's looming over the whole proceeding, with Mahomes is blossoming and becoming an all-time great in front of our eyes over the last 6 years as starter, because of 2 things. One, when Mahomes is being the GOAT that he is right now, that's the league that Caleb Williams is entering, number one. And then number 2, the fact that the Bears traded up in the Mahomes draft for Mitchell Trubisky and then allowed Mahomes to still be on the board for Reed to trade up and go get, that has haunted every conversation about the quarterback position in Chicago to the present day with Justin Fields. So fair or not, that looms. So I guess my question for you is, with Shane Waldron there in Chicago, when you say best fit, is that a good fit? Like, will Williams blossom in Chicago with their current roster and their current building and OC?
Well, I think there's still, there's a lot of work to be done there, and, I think Waldron has a good reputation. He's somebody who's respected. The people that I know that know him, I don't personally know him, but I've heard good things there. They still need to continue to add to that offensive line. They need another complementary piece to DJ Moore, who played really well last year. And I think you're going to have some patience. I mean, I do agree from the sense that, C.J. Stroud, what he did last year was so phenomenal and so outside the norm to just hit the ground running like that. I don't think that Caleb is as polished as some of these other quarterbacks, but the ceiling is what you're chasing there, and that's going to require some patience. So, no, everything I've heard about Waldron's good. I like some of the pieces they have there in Chicago. There's still more work to be done, but you can dream on what Caleb Williams can be. And people say, oh, you're chasing the ceiling. I'm like, yeah, well, you look around the NFL right now at the high level of quarterbacks, and it's hard. It's hard to say, I just want a steady Eddie, guy. I want to go chase what they have. I want to have one of these cyborg quarterbacks to go blow for blow with these elite guys.
I think you have to, right? And that's the whole point. That's the whole point, is to, can Justin Fields, after, as you said, 39 games of evaluation, take that next step and be that guy? Or do you start the clock from the very beginning and go get Caleb Williams? Do you think that's an upgrade? Is Caleb an upgrade in your estimation?
I think he's, just looking at who they were coming out, I think he's more gifted than Justin. And I think he does things faster. Everything's a little bit faster. Now, Justin, obviously, speed-wise is on his own level there. But just in terms of quick feet, quick hands, quickly getting from 1 to 2 to 3, I've seen Caleb do those things. And, there's just some instinctual stuff that he has, some creativity some magic, whatever you want to call it. He has that. So he's a higher graded prospect entering into this portion of the process.
And what would your suggestion to Adam Peters and Magic Johnson? Here I am telling you, you give Magic Johnson your 2 cents here. Where Caleb is from the area, right? They need a quarterback. Whereas there's Jaden Daniels and there's Drake May for them to just sit and take and then keep all their draft capital that apparently, according to our colleague Ian Rappaport, DJ, is what, a Godfather plus Godfather Part 2 offer that needs to come to Chicago's way, that they want something unprecedented. Would you suggest them doing something unprecedented to go get Caleb Williams just up one spot, 2-1?
I don't know that I would say unprecedented. I think if you can get something done that's that's within reason, I can make a case for that. I like the other 2 quarterbacks. I mean, I think there's 3 good quarterbacks in this draft that I think are really highly graded. And I also think when you look at Washington and you look at Adam Peters coming over there, you always carry your scars with you. And maybe the one do-over that he might have with John Lynch there is the massive haul to go up to get Trey Lance that didn't pan out. So does he carry that with him? They're sitting there at the second pick, and let's say on a grading scale, you might have a 69 or a 7.0 grade on Caleb Williams, and he's the top guy. But then you've got 67 grades on the next 2 guys. Like, okay, yeah, he's a little bit better, but man, this is still a really, really good option for me, and I'm not going to have to part with all the picks.
And who's the next quarterback tier? Like, and where does it start, do you think, in the first round?
Well, here's the teams. Teams that I think are going to be involved in quarterbacks and could at least be involved in having the conversation to try and go up. And that's 6, the Giants, who also, happen to possess 2 second-round picks. You're going to have all these picks down in your head, Rich. They're all going to be on a card. You're going to be studying this stuff.
Right now, my head's still spinning from Vegas, man, but I've got 2+ weeks to get it. I'll get there. I'll get there.
You got time. Atlanta is at 8. They've got 2 3s. So I'm just looking at teams that have maybe a little extra resources there. You've got Minnesota at 11, Denver at 12, Vegas at 13. Denver would be tricky. They don't even own a second-round pick this year. So, they're still, paying for the previous quarterback moves that they made. So there's no shortage of teams, and that's why – I think there's those top 3 quarterbacks for me. Then you get into the next 3, whatever order you have them in. I think the teams that I talk to, and really I shouldn't say teams, but personnel executives, general managers, their personal opinion on these guys is all over the place. But there's McCarthy teams, there's Bo Nix teams, there's Penix teams. So you're looking at 6 quarterbacks right there, and we're getting to pick 13. And I've got 8 teams that could be potentially quarterback teams, which means don't be shocked if we see an unprecedented run on these guys.
All right. And before I let you go, just go back and tie it all together. What was your evaluation of Patrick Mahomes when he came out? What was it? I forget, in Philadelphia.
It was one I would like that's hiding under my bed.
Is that right?
Will not come out. Look, he was someone who I thought was a boomer bust player, had the raw tools, but it was so just kind of unorthodox. I used the phrase, it was screens and scrambles with an elite arm, and it was going to require a lot of development and a lot of patience. So then that's through the whole process. Maybe a week or 2 before the draft. We brought Patrick Mahomes. He came into NFL Network, and we ended up getting him in the podcast studio with Bucky and myself.
Yeah.
And we sat up there, and Bucky and I just talked about this earlier today, but he came in there, and I said, one of the things I love is when you get a chance to visit with these guys is, do you have recall? A lot of the great quarterbacks really have recall. And I asked him about a specific play against TCU, a touchdown in like the 3rd quarter. He gave me the name of the play. He gave me the coverage that they got, and he gave me why he made the decision that he did. And then he left the room, and I looked at Bucky, and I said, I'm a little nervous. I could be off on this guy. And sure enough, he's had all that ability, went to the right place, the intelligence, the work ethic, all put together, and you have the greatest player we've ever seen.
What does that tell you, though? I mean, because, again, this is what we're going to be talking about over the next several weeks. And couple months, certainly when there's grease boards and say, get on the board and tell me your favorite play and all that stuff. Because that's the essence here is the desire to be great, the desire to have just 1 win not be enough. It's got to be 2. And now we're going to be talking about 3. They're talking 3-peat openly. Like they want to come back and say 2 is great. Others have done it. 3, nobody's ever done. So what does that tell you? Daniel?
Well, first of all, he's, Steve Young used to use the line that the great quarterbacks have this ability to kind of say, over my dead body, are we going to lose this game in those moments? He has that. That's how he's wired 100%. But going back to the recall thing, what makes, the Tom Brady's and the Peyton Mannings and all these guys is they have this memory bank where everything they've seen gets logged. And then as the longer they play, there's nothing, there's not a look you're going to get that doesn't, bring back a memory of what is to come and what the defense is going to do and how you attack it and how you defeat it. So to have that memory bank, even at the college level, to remember specific plays and specific games, you can then translate that to the next level. You're like, oh man, when this guy gets 5 or 6 years into this league, he's going to have absorbed all of this information and none of it's going to have left him. And now you've got the rare ability as well as this memory bank with all the answers to the test. And it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And then you could say this guy, when he's got his first 6 seasons as a starter, is going to have 4 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl wins, 3 Super Bowl MVP awards, 2 NFL MVPs, 2-time passing leader, 6-time Pro Bowler, 6 AFC Championship games in a row. NFL record 5,614 total yards in a season.
Is that good?
Is that? Let me check. Hold on a minute. Can confirm. It is good.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, man. We're going to chat again soon. Keep looking for my texts and calls.
I'm looking forward to it, man. This is the fun time of the year, and not just because the Padres signed Profar. I mean, that's all.
Hey! Congratulations.
Thanks, buddy.
Daniel Jeremiah, everybody, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.